And we're back.
Good morning, sir. How are you this
Monday.
bright shiny?
Monday, April 12th.
How about it? April 12th?
May 12th.
Sure.
Crap. All right. Let's start it over.
May 12th is good.
Or maybe let's call it a day. I thought about texting you today saying that I was sick because I woke up. I don't know if it's like allergies or what it is, but today was really, really slow morning for me.
I got to admit, me too.
It was bad.
I know. I slept till like 4:30, 4:45, and I was dragging getting up.
Brutal. But you know what? You push through it. You get in here.
Yeah, and
it's great.
There's no sickness in FX. It's like there's no crying in baseball.
No, there's no sickness.
No one's sick.
There's no sickness in FX. There's no sickness in this dollar, which we'll get to in a second.
Never sleep. So did you you do something special for your mom?
It was Mother's Day yesterday, wasn't it?
Yeah. And I keep reminding my children.
What?
She's not my mom. She's yours.
Did I do something special? It's weird.
So did that in and of itself?
Yeah.
The look and the pause.
Well, it's tough because my family's from Chicago,
right.
But my parents the last few years have not been living in Chicago. Yeah. I hope that changes sometime soon. So what I was going to get at, in the digital age, doing something special for a birthday or Mother's Day really comes down to sending a text. Is that enough? It seems like, and I don't want to make this an ageism thing, but it seems,
look at you make the pejorative. You know like the answer.
The older people really do. Like, if you spend even 3 to 5 minutes crafting like a nice text, and if you throw like a GIF or two, your emoji person, the version of like Frank but digitized, like hugging Fran mom but digitized and saying like Happy Mother's Day, like that seems like she's like crying at that point. Like it's super nice, which seems weird.
You really are detached from reality, aren't you?
Okay, so I am.
My God.
So the text thing is not very meaningful.
The 10-minute phone call will get you so much more credibility than the emoji-driven whatever.
Mm-hmm.
No.
Yeah, the text thing, it feels weak for sure.
And it is generational. But yeah, no.
But it's weird though, because I think these things have kind of flipped. It's like Facebook, 20 years ago versus Facebook now. You want your
parents to be you, where it's like, and my youngest, told me I called him on a Sunday morning, 9:30 in the morning, not unreasonable, but again, being a creature of the night, maybe a little.
Sure.
And him saying, Dad, listen, I just want to give you a heads up. A lot of times people might think it rude to just call them without texting them first that you're going to call them. And I'm like, well,
this is your son saying this to you.
Yeah, that world will never exist for me. I am not spending 5 minutes with my fat thumbs typing out, may I call you now?
Well, also, I appreciate what your son has to say, but he could also not answer and just call you back. Like,
but
we get kind of stressed about these things. But yeah, I hear where you're coming from. So we did the text. Well, okay. But also it was partially ruined because my sister had already navigated the Mother's Day gift. But this is how these things go.
Well, so you were part of that.
Yeah,
that's credibility.
Well, but this is how
the text is a nice backup to it.
For like the last several years, it's like, oh yeah, like I'll send flowers, and I usually do the coordination. But like I get the other siblings in on it, whatever.
Right.
And flowers show up on Mother's Day. But now I don't know if it's a sign of like the different age milestones you get to, or a sign of the times, or what. But now my mom knew that the flowers were coming, reached out to sister and said, I don't want the flowers, but I really want a facial. And it's like, okay, so now I'm just Venmoing $50 to my sister so that we can all coordinate to get her, the facial, and it arrives. She gets the gift card on Saturday, And so, like, she's saying, "Oh, thank you" on Saturday. Like, you're the best kids ever. It's not even Mother's Day. But then on Mother's Day, I'm also texting, like, "Oh, we love you very much."
You got it covered. I thought it was just a perfunctory text on. No, you front load. Because my kids came out for Mother's Day on Saturday, too. And
Yeah.
they were great.
And so
they
it's fun.
actually cooked and everything. It was really fun. So.
And I would love to do stuff like that, but they moved to Kentucky.
Right.
It's hard to drive down to Kentucky for everything.
Oh, if you left Friday at when you're done with work at 7 o'clock at night.
I could have done it.
You could have been there.
But these holidays also are meaningless.
I'm just giving you a hard time.
Like birthdays, I'm almost. I saw a friend for the first time in a while, in like 2 months. I guess it's not a while, but my birthday had been in between this time, and he was like, one of the first things he said, he's like, "Oh, happy birthday! I forgot to say happy birthday." Blah blah blah, and I was just like, and he was like embarrassed about it. He was like, "I forgot to text you." Blah blah blah. And I was just like, I couldn't. I didn't think about it over my birthday. I didn't think. Well, these people didn't text me, and seeing you now didn't occur to me that you didn't wish me a happy birthday.
That's like a more the non-caring about the birthday piece.
Is that an age thing?
Yeah, because I don't. It's like, what do you want to do for your birthday? I'm like, absolutely nothing.
But you're still going to guilt people about Mother's Day and Father's Day. Has Father's Day surpassed your birthday?
I don't. Again, I don't care about Father's Day. My wife is a wonderful mother.
Yes.
Her children should do something for her.
Gotcha. Okay. And you want the children to show, to essentially do some kind of showing that they care. The phone call or or coming and doing the dinner or whatever.
Yeah.
I hear you.
Yeah.
All right. Well, I'll figure it out one of these years.
You're close.
I think.
You're close. I mean, it'll never be quite right. I mean, the fact that she knew the flowers were coming and didn't want them was...
kind of, I don't know, whether it's that.
Well, it's funny because Michelle, my oldest, sends a flower bouquet every year, and we've got 2 dogs, and it's like this dog-based.
That's cool.
Michelle goes, and I'll probably get the dog thing.
That's what I'm saying. Like what? The one time that my mom really cried at like a Christmas birthday thing was like a Christmas a couple of years ago, and I got her like a couple $100 to the spin class that she likes to go to, where she lives in Kentucky, and she like started bawling, like I had like just awarded her like the Nobel Peace Prize or something.
So
and it was
I've got a $200 gift card coming my way for spin class. This is good to know.
There was 1 or 2 years. I am thankfully financially a little bit better off now than I was in past years, but not much.
We're going to put an end to that.
It's not much.
No, that's an anomaly.
But there was like 1 or 2 years. Do you remember for your birthday I got you like a really nice thing?
Yeah, it was tickets to the opera.
And
or the
there's this, and also like I got you like some kind of spa package.
Yeah.
You and your wife, and I am just like, once I saw the bills for that year, I was like, this is not going to happen. I can't get these people all of this stuff. But yeah, happy Mother's Day. There's no Mother's Day event on Father's Day. There's the U.S. Open. On Mother's Day, nothing.
No.
There's no kind of thing. I guess it's like spring. You go outside. You go for a walk.
It's a day to sell flowers and cards.
Yeah. All right.
So, but it is nice. You know what? My wife's been a great mom, so it's good.
Yeah. Happy Mother's Day, Michelle. Anyways, let's
see about making some money to pay for all this.
Seriously, thankfully, the U.S. If your mom was in pretty much any country other than the U.S. and you had dollars, your gift for her would be cheaper today.
Yeah.
Because your dollar is about 1% stronger.
Boy, this is
across
tough
the board.
because I didn't think we'd give back this much ground on this news.
What is the news? I didn't even see the news. What's the news?
2:00. Well, it was dangled over the weekend that they had this meeting in Switzerland between the Treasury Secretary and the Vice Premier of China.
Okay,
and
I heard about that.
So we were all like, last night we were doing, Tom and I and Victor and Ilya were doing the show, and we're like trying to guess how much the market's going to be up. 40 handles, 50 handles, and just like the rally that it's not going to be up 145%. And the market did open up higher, and just sat there and drifted a little bit down. Gold opened $70 lower and rallied 30 back. So it's like, okay, this is And really, the people are less inclined to believe anything's actually going to come of this. But I guess at 2:00 in the morning, the Treasury Secretary formally announced with the Chinese that there's just going to be a very small tariff in place for the next 90 days to reach agreements on major milestones. In my mindset, that's nothing. Okay,
Yeah.
so you brought them down to a better baseline that's still disoriented with all these exemptions. No one has any certainty. And again, whether you're a big company or a small company, okay, what do I do next? Do I order a bunch of stuff and hold on to it and store it, or do I wait in terms of supply chain? So not a lot of clarity, but maybe the takeaway was, and this is the one thing I didn't count on, was that the damage done on the down move was substantial. And maybe people, again, NASDAQ's up almost 400 points. It's only been less than 12. It's been 10 hours since this 2 a.m. announcement.
Sure.
I want to see how sticky this is, because if this stays sticky at these levels and we're there tomorrow, I think you've got shorts in a box.
Yeah.
But I would have thought they would have taken this, leaned into it, let it go, and then leaned into it.
Well, so
maybe the market itself is a little underinvested now, and now they're squeezing all those people. So it'll be interesting to see. You got to take the context of these moves are huge. We're back through the 200-day moving averages, both SPOOs and NASDAQ.
Sure.
So technically, we're back to grounds we haven't seen. And correspondingly, you saw it wasn't the Sunday night opening where it was interesting. Euro a little lower, sterling a little lower, Aussie higher, Canada higher, Kiwi higher.
Sure.
All right, things are a little bit better. But even Aussie and Kiwi gave it up with this dollar strength at this 2:00 release.
Yeah, you see the open here last night, and this is the euro dollar market. We're looking at the 15-minute chart.
And that 112 was a nice level. That was a nice pullback.
50 points lower from where we
Yeah.
went out on Friday, and then they rallied it all the way close to unchanged. To your point, at that point, if you're awake last night looking at this, you're thinking, okay, they're going to take everything the other way now. Like that was the move, the kind of like, tariff fear is reduced. That's as good as you're getting.
Right.
And now they're going to take everything the other way. And then, you see the further announcement come out around 2, 3 in the morning Eastern time. And that's where you get the 100-point release. And now they're toying with some of these new levels. We're looking at Eurodollar here again, breaking back down below 111, bouncing right now as we speak back above 111. This is a massive move to start the week. There's also a ton of data coming out this week. I don't know how relevant that is.
I think in this case, we've got CPI Tuesday. It's going to be the first CPI that actually reflects a little bit of,
Sure.
depending on who prices haven't changed, prices have changed. It'll be a little bit reflective of that. I think that will be interesting to see how that actually plays through. So
you've got that, and you've got retail sales on Wednesday, which again, like in a market like this, it's hard to say. But those are two top 5 numbers right there after your FOMC and your non-farm that you got in the last week. But across the board, Pete, huge moves. Obviously, this dollar-yen market. It looks, the timing of it all looks about the same. You've got a 50 to 70 point move here on the open. They give back some of that ground. The dollar gives back some of that ground, that is. And then right here at 2, 3 in the morning, you see the big move, dollar higher.
2.5 handles. Huge.
148. Move. Holy smokes. I mean, this is quite a move. And it's just funny to me because Forex, in so many ways, it's hard, Pete, to measure some of these big events in equities because you've got so much positive drift.
Right.
And so, so many times what you'll see when there's a big sell-off in SPOOs is the people will come out and be like, it'll sell off from 5,500 to below 5,000 or around 5,000 or whatever, and everyone will, a lot of people will be clamoring, But there will be the cynics out there that'll be like, well, actually,
Right.
it should be back down below 3,000. And it's like,
I love that it should be.
but it's just like, the people who are like, oh, like I remember 10 years ago when it was trading 2,200.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay. But like these markets just look at the Dow chart from 1900 to now. It's just, it drifts higher. But it is just funny to me. You look back the last few years and you take out this historical chart. And I'll just go, the last 5 years or so. And no matter what the event is, pre-Trump, throughout the Biden presidency, whatever, some of it being political, some of it not being political, being just inflation, interest rate based, we have bounced off of these levels a handful of times in the last couple of years. This 140, I don't care what the event was, but man, did we turn on a dime on this number. And it's just funny to think that, like, obviously, Trump and these central bankers that are meeting and all these different people that are meeting to, have these tariff conversations and now kind of resolve them aren't looking at this dollar yen market or looking at euro dollar at, 113 necessarily and say like, well, now's when we have to figure this out. But it is just funny to me, the timing of this and how these markets are so mean reverting in a way, or so range bound in a way, whatever you want to call it.
I think you can't say there's drift. Like you make a great point within equities, because this is just the relationship of two different underlyings. The dollar against the yen against the euro. You can flip those around, and I mean, we trade them in a standard convention, but you can look at them from either side, and none of that bias exists. So I think that's an interesting aspect here. Commodity currencies were a little bit left off the hook, but
let me take out the 15-minute chart, and you can see here.
And on the news, they got a little bit of juice to the upside, 64.60. Couldn't quite get back through that 65-cent level, that 60-cent level in Kiwi. Both very tough levels to get through. But a very different chart, though. I mean, we're off 0.3%. So pullback, but a very different reaction than what we saw out of the majors.
It's super interesting to see, dollar higher across the board on that open. You see here, pretty muted move. Dollar definitely not higher against Aussie on the open. And then slowly these commodity currencies grind higher. On the initial news, to your point, huge rally. I mean, this is a 30, 40-point rally in a 60-cent underlying here. And then it becomes a U.S. dollar story throughout the rest of this morning here. We'll see how that continues to play out. So what do you look
for this week then? So a lot of damage to euro, yen. This new traded range we talk about is getting challenged to the downside in a pretty material way. Again, I want to see. This is a thing where I need a little bit more time at these levels to see if they stay or they revert. But what would you be looking at? You are we're still 6 big figures above the 104 level, 7, but we're 5 handles off the highs. You could argue great pullback, I want to get long, or structure's been broken below 112. Both are true. Are you more inclined to say the highs have been set, gold off almost $110?
It feels
everything's moving. Actually, all those correlations that are broken down are tending to come back together now.
It feels like, whether you're talking about equities, crypto, US dollar, the low has been put in. And I don't mean that in like it can't go lower, but just like if we're talking about US dollar, we're now, 3 solid weeks of trading away from those lows. And at this point, when we were in this zone, I think you and I were, and the market was all still very like unknown. VIX is still on certain days like getting pretty elevated. And there were plenty of these little rallies in here, Pete, where we got back above 114. And I think all of us were like, there's a solid chance that we have another go here at these lows across these asset classes. What you've seen is not only some time, but some distance and some consistency of bullish action in those markets. I mean, you just look at the price action across, especially equities and crypto, and it's like, it's pretty unrelenting.
Right.
You know, it's at this point putting some real distance away from those lows. Now, where I arrive at, especially in Forex, which my whole point with the dollar yen market is, man, even in these crazy markets, whatever the crazy story is of 25, of 24, of 23, the last 5 years, you still have some relationships that have been relatively range bound and can be pretty mean reverting. And we're seeing it, what looks like some pretty violent mean reversion to the upside in US dollar as we speak. Within this move, this week, what I'm looking for is, this is a huge sell-off. This is a multi-standard deviation. If you're just looking at 5 trading days, the move from 113.30 down below 111 is a massive move. I would maybe, if I'm a contrarian like I have been historically, maybe I'm leaning to wanting to get long a little bit more than wanting to sell into these rallies. But volatility's juiced. I'm looking for, we've already moved 140 points here.
Yeah.
Maybe I would be looking for another 20 or 30 points to get long.
If you're playing the numbers, if you're playing the probabilities, I mean, you're on the verge of 2+ standard deviation.
Huge moves, just from a pure statistics.
Right.
And like I say,
not so much in Aussie, obviously Aussie, Canada, and Kiwi, absolutely not. But there's the case of, if you do get a continued dip, you buy the pair that is basically has better structure and is holding on, or do you buy the thing that is really on sale right now?
I think it depends on what you're trying to get done.
Yeah.
And I guess when I look at that euro dollar market, I would more be looking at this for some scalps. And same with the dollar yen market, where it's like, these markets are already 100 points out on today, and the U.S. session hasn't come in.
It's a great point. 2 standard deviations were down, 135 pips. You can't look for, I don't think you can look for 70, 80 points of up in this market.
It would be hard, but crazier things have happened.
Absolutely. Let's go ahead and take a look at euro sterling before we check ourselves out here.
Sure. A nice time to be looking at some of these crosses, because some of them are pretty out of whack. And I'm looking at anything with the Aussie in it. That might be a more interesting play than, if you don't want this U.S. dollar story, these Aussie pairs might be better for potential reversion. But what are you looking at with euro sterling in here?
Just, again, this, actually, when we talk about pulling back into that core range, this has had a better pullback into that core range. Now, I'm not saying I like this better than just euro. Euro is the true markdown. All this is telling you very succinctly is the euro is getting more beat up than the sterling is right now. So it is the weakest of the weak. It's an interesting way to play it without the dollar noise. For me, it's just an easy confirmation of what truly is relatively the weakest. Euro is. You can look at the percentage change, that tells you too. But this is something where I look at this and I could say, 8,400 is an interesting level for us.
Well, and
we get one punch lower early U.S. hours on euro, we'll test that level. And I would think this, for me, might be a more interesting level than trying to catch the euro. Is it going to stop at 150 or is it going to 180?
Well, and we'll leave it with this, because you and I have, I think the best way that we can convey this a lot of times is when you look at a board like this, or I like this market because it is the biggest pullback really that we're looking at. But you look at a board like this, it comes down to what is your time horizon for any of these trades.
Excellent point.
Because that euro sterling trade, if you're looking for, a scalp today, it's only down 0.25%. And so maybe not going to have the reflexivity of a day trade, but maybe a better swing trade, a week trade, or a monthly trade. But if you're looking for some scalping trades, I would be looking at, this yen, this euro, and this Swiss franc, markets that are already outside of their normal range and are probably going to have some nice 20, 30, 40-point moves throughout the U.S. session today. But that'll do it for today's Forex Focus. Thanks so much for joining me, Pete. Always fun. And happy Mother's Day to all the mothers out there. Have a great rest of your day. Stay tuned for Tom, Tony, and Bonetta coming up next. Peace.
The market doesn't stop. So why should you? Diversify your portfolio with stocks, options, futures, crypto, and more from tastyfx. Focus on the markets that matter to you. See the odds before you trade using curve analysis, IV rank,